So that first
All
it
right,
was
good
the whole
afternoon, Earth. This is
universe,
Adam Sturch
then it was the
broadcasting from the Mushroom
galaxy,
Mansion Taos, New
then the
Mexico,
solar
working on oil
system,
painting.
then each of the
Okay,
planets
today
moving in,
I've
then all
lined in
life
a
on
little
Earth,
pencil cloud
then all
up here in her
mammals,
dark
then
wing,
all human
and instead of
beings,
doing
then
a
all
moonscape, I'm
Irish,
going to have a lightning
then
flash
finally all the
in her wing.
McKennas there
And then
ever
I'm
were,
going
and
to
then
glaze
finally
these
the
guys,
question was
these
it him
figures
or
here,
me? And
gold,
then he got that sorted
in order
out
to start
finally,
making
and
them
then
more
he was
luminous from
fine.
their core with a
Shaken,
golden
but
sort of
fine.
glowish aura
We've
about
now
them.
reached the 22nd
So,
of March,
okay, here we go.
1971, and I was just, I couldn't talk to anybody. I was in a very, 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 very strange place. I mean, things went on, well, just as an example, because there wasn't much of this 3D stuff that you could wrap your mind around, but everything was teaching me. Everything had a message for me, and I would go out into the jungle, and I would raise my arms above my head, and I would call the butterflies into me out of the jungle, and they would come, first by dozens and then by hundreds, and I would stand there. And here's how the thought progression would go. I would call the butterflies in, and then it would move me to tears. And so there I am standing, covered with butterflies, tears of joy streaming down my face, and streaming down my face, and streaming down my face. And finally I begin thinking, so now what? And then I think, the people back at the camp who doubt me, those bastards, wait till they see this. So then I would go to the camp, and I would be smiling, the tiny smile that only Buddhas can manage, and I would invite them into the jungle to see something unannounced. And so they would say, well, I don't know, you're just, all right, we'll go. So then we would go into the jungle, and I would raise my hands above my head, and I would call the butterflies in, and none would come. And these people would just say, oh, God, it's getting worse and worse and worse. Your brother is nuts. You have delusions of this is pathetic. I mean, this is a mind in wreckage. This is the green hell. This is the thing we feared the most, you know? And so eventually, and any of you who are self-diagnosed as schizophrenic will agree with me on this, I'm sure. The key to surviving schizophrenia in one piece and avoiding massive intervention by the mental health care authorities is shut up. Shut up about it. Do not talk about it. Of course you can raise the dead and heal the sick and divine distant event, but just shut up about it, or you're not going to make it through. Well, eventually everybody else sort of renegotiated themselves back to some kind of reality. My brother flew back to the States, and I was, in a sense, left in the Amazon to mull all this. So is there unfinished business from last night? Yeah.
Was the voice that was directing you on the time wave stuff, is this something that's under the influence you hear this voice, or is it just your natural, you just hear this voice whenever?
Well, it's sort of, we talked last night about Dennis had this notion that he could bond these molecules in permanently. And everybody you only get to be one person, so it's very hard to know what it's like to stand in someone else's shoes. But going into that experience in the Amazon, I was a fairly disorganized, I don't think I had a very bright future, actually. And I spent my last dime to get in there. So there was essentially, it was some kind of heart of darkness thing where I was just pulling out all the plugs and sinking deeper and deeper. And since then, my life has the character of pure science fiction. I mean, I sort of became the alien ambassador and was given a sinecure and appointed to then, mediate between the other and a certain kind of person in a certain kind of society. So the weirdness never leaves me, to answer your question. But in a sense, this idea is completed now. I mean, there are always unanswered questions, but the complete metaphor is there. The mystery, I think, is, it has two sides. It has a profound side and an absurd side. The profound side is, is the world tidally locked with an extra-dimensional object of some sort that has sucked an animal species into history and is, revealing itself through the transformation of our flesh and machines? And if not, on this schedule of 2012 and so forth, then what does this idea exist for? Is it just simply that I have a peculiar pathology married to a certain amount of charisma, so instead of being locked up and dragged away, I can turn it into a marketable product in a very marginal way that allows me to keep paying my phone bill and stuff like that? Is that what it is? Notice that the idea is not designed to last. It's designed to auto-destruct one way or the other in 2012. So this whole ideological vision has written all over it, perishable, apply immediately, do not use after December 22nd, 2012 AD. So I don't really understand much about what's going on. It seems to me there are levels and levels and veils and veils. It puzzles me that life seems to have become some kind of story. It's much more a literary construct than it is the product of the stochastic motions of atoms under the impingement of the four basic forces of physics. Everything appears to me to be authored in some strange way. And I wonder if this is not, the spreading assumption of the psychedelic illusion, delusion, revelation, that life is in fact art in some very profound way. And then, being somehow fated to literature and the spoken and written word, I wonder, if this is a novel, if this is a construct of artifice, well then it behooves each one of us to ask the question, who am I in the plot? Who am I in the context of the story? I mean, maybe it's your story, the Shlomo Ekbach story, or maybe you exist to draw the bath for Milady on page 220 and then bow your way out of the room, never to be heard of again in the story. That wonderful line in Prufrock, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be, am an attendant lord, will do to start a scene, swell a procession, advise the prince, careful, obtuse, meticulous, at times a bit ridiculous. Anyway, are you that person, or are you Prince Hamlet? And then the question becomes, if you, the character in this literary construct, are slowly becoming aware that it's a literary construct, then Is that part of the plot? Is this a story about a sort of Pirandello-esque exposition of the levels of personality as we rise into awareness that we are caged by artifice? Or are you getting out from under the control of the author? I sort of think that, well, one thing that I've sort of discovered as my career has gone through its circuitous and glacial advancement is that as you make your way into what are called the corridors of power, you discover they're remarkably uncrowded and there are no waiting lines at the water fountains. There doesn't seem to be anybody really running the show above the level which just makes sure that UPS delivers on time. Above there, where you would think there would be, in the captain's tower, there's a kind of eerie emptiness. And I think that means that one can aspire upward in this matter of taking a little bit more control of the plot. And that the goal is not so much to advance your character, act out your character, and by, brilliant marriages or daring military campaigns or feats of investment genius to somehow begin to take over the stage. This isn't the way to move the evolution of the personality. The way to move the evolution of the personality is toward empathy and eventual assimilation of the viewpoint of the author. The author is the one who is in charge of the pattern and has some kind of a vision, which, if the author knows what she or he is doing, this is all being woven toward a hierophany, a catharsis that illuminates, educates, leaves us in a better place. And I think the payoff on this is if you become the author is sort of in the position of a programmer. The author can save or destroy any character. So if you become the author, you can write an ending that will save your character from the destruction that was inevitably built into it for you to get into this mess in the first place. You see? So it's now, what lies behind such raving as this? Can this coffee really be that strong?
When you were in the journal, Dennis had his 14-day psychotic episode or whatever it was. Did he take the same drug that you did? Did you both do the same thing?
Well, very shortly after we got into it, he didn't do any drugs. Because it was perfectly clear that he had no need of them. The way it worked was we had a series of mushroom trips. Well, we had walked all this way through the jungle, and later I had occasion to walk that trail again, 110 clicks, and it was so difficult the second time that I had to face the fact that the first time we had actually had like wings on our feet or something. We accomplished an impossible physical feat without even noticing that we were doing it. And then when we got there, we had a series of mushroom trips, and on the third mushroom trip, we were talking in the hut. It was in the middle of the night, and he was saying how he regretted that he hadn't been able to reach our father by telephone before he left for Colombia, because he hadn't been able to really say goodbye properly. And he was, this kind of unsettled trip. And we were all sitting in hammocks in darkness. And you could hear a Witoto walking on the trail because his transistor radio was on. You always know when an Amazon Indian is nearby because they're tuned to... anyway. So, not El Paso. So we could hear this Indian with his transistor radio winding up the trail toward us. I remember it was an ad for Costeña, la cerveza más mejor de Colombia. And then as it came and faded, then Dennis made this very strange noise, which was like a metallic, a very strange noise. And it was like that was really for him the moment. It came in a moment. And then we talked, and he was agitated all night long, and he kept wanting to go down the hill to where these other people were sleeping, and by morning he was saying, you know what we could do with this? And then he just laid out this whole theory of molecular canceling and molecular intercalation. But drugs had a surprisingly little amount to do with it once he caught the wave.
So you never used to cook?
We went through this whole thing at La Chorrera and left at the end of March. And the woman I was with and I stayed in Colombia another month. Everybody else went back. And we wrestled with it another month. And I was quite out of it, I think. I believed that she would give birth to the word itself. And I believed that it would be a little glass fiance bead that I had lost in Laos 5 years earlier. And when she began to develop a round sore on the top of her mouth that was exactly the size of this thing, then I realized that this little object would drop down onto her tongue someday soon, and she would deliver it to me, and that it would be the Word made flesh. It would be the... Now are you alarmed? Now do you begin to get the drift that we've attempted to suppress so long? And you know, I thought that this thing would essentially be a suitable second body, a reposit. I can't explain it. I mean, it was the Philosopher's Stone. It was everything. We were nuts, let's face it. But on the other hand, there was concentrically surrounding this whole thing, there were immense synchronicities. I mean, the world around us seemed to be mad as well. It seemed like we were caught in the infundibulum of the concrescence or something. I mean, it's now what I would expect to happen just days or hours before the final closure on that wave that we looked at last night. But in our local domain, it seemed to be happening for us then. And you know, I was flaming. And it took me years and years to dial it down so that it's even as friendly and packageable as it is in the present moment. Because for a long time, it wasn't. I mean, it just drove people to the walls. I mean, they just said, I don't know, and I don't want to hear any, and I've had it, and call me when you're better, you know.
Did you say, though, that there was an aromatase oxidase inhibitor reaction?
Well, we did brew ayahuasca and take it, but I think having seen it, having lived with shamans since then, and having learned a lot more about ayahuasca, I think the ayahuasca that we brewed was so weak as to be dismissible. Yeah.
Yeah. You had mentioned the transformation of flesh and machinery. With your understanding of shamanism, could you speak a little bit to shape-shifting, their idea of shape-shifting, and how that may occur as far as our endpoint here, our common endpoint, and also the computer technology that allows us to pattern these theories and perhaps bring us our own notion of authorship due to that, and what that means for our own flesh transformation.
Yes, well, in a way, I think these new technologies of information retrieval and virtual realities and this sort of thing are simply the engineering mentality following along behind the shamanistic intent and putting it in place in silicone and glass and so forth and so on. The persistent rumor in real off-river Amazon psychedelic shamanism is of this fluid, this stuff, which you can generate out of your body under the influence of these compounds, that is this translinguistic matter, this mind, this spirit matter amalgam, which you literally give birth to out of your own body in the form. And what the claim is that's made for this stuff is that it's like a collapse of ordinary geometry. There are stars inside this stuff. You can also look into it and see who stole the pig. You know, you can look into it and you can see how the fishing would be if you moved upriver. It's a cybernetic transdimensional medium of some sort that is generated out of the mysteries of the physiology of the human body. Well, God, this is so far off the beaten track from anything in the Western repertoire of conception that we just gape at the notion. And it's hard to get confirmation, but what they say, see, ayahuasca is all about group-mindedness, states of group mind. It's also, when you analyze it chemically, it's brain soup. There's nothing in ayahuasca that isn't in your brain as we sit here. It's made out of DMT, and it's made out of beta-carbolines like harmine and harmaline. These things all occur naturally in your brain. So, in these off-river tribal situations, people take it all in a group, and when the boundaries dissolve, there is a group mind present that is able to make decisions. And the shape-shifting and the mystery of who was it we were just talking about, the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. This is the fallacy which haunts the Western mind. For the shaman, you know, attention gathers energy.
All right,
to itself.
I want to redo the red as well,
And so
but there's not quite enough time left in this memory
projection.
clip to do that.
So the mystery, I think the mystery of shamanism and the mystery of the psychedelic experience is a mystery of language. How can we are imprisoned by language, and yet it
So I've got
should
a
be our
lightning bolt,
vehicle for
and I
liberation.
just filled all of the
And
dark
something has happened to
excuse
our
me,
language through
with phthalo
the
blue
phonetic alphabet,
around
through
the white
the
stripe to
abuse
give it a glow,
that
a glowing
print
edge,
has
and then a
laid
nice
on to
deep
our
lake
thinking.
blue
You
for
all
that cloud,
probably know
and
the
lightened it up a little bit with a
ideas
lightning
of
bolt.
Marshall McLuhan, who
stemming from
felt
it.
that the linear
And then we got
quality
these
of
figures
print
started.
created such notions
I would like them
as
to be
the
glowing,
citizen,
and that's a good
the
start
industrial
to a nice
assembly
aura,
line,
golden
the theory
aura.
of interchangeable
So that's it for the moment. Thank you for watching. That's Adam Sturch
a
Broadcasting
whole bunch
from the
of
Mushroom Mansion,
conceptions
Taos,
which we
New
take
Mexico,
totally
working on
for
oil
granted
painting. Oh,
are
have a
in
good night,
fact
Earth.
adumbrations of the